god, this stout's incredible.
Really? That's good to hear.
Oh yeah, I always get curious with new local blends and new things they try out, and this is the first time I've seen a local place do a nice Irish style stout, and it's delectable.
Stout is not for everyone, but then there's lots of beers which they're so diverse that you know that 90% of the people aren't even going to like it, even if they smelled it. So,
I mean, I have been one of those people who I will try just about anything. And what was it? It was a blueberry tart lemon ale, I want to say. And it's just I'll try the weird thing for the sake of trying the weird thing, so I can just say I've tried the weird thing. Yeah. And sometimes it works. That one did not.
There's so many craft beers which are experimental, and there's so many great. Well, at least in Toronto, we have a few craft beer halls, and they do seasonal beers and they do experiments, and it's like, okay, I'll try your.
Would you like to know how many breweries are in Ohio?
Sure.
Over 300.
Holy crap, that's amazing.
Yeah, that is just Ohio.
Yeah. No. The beer culture in America, like each individual state, is just insane.
It exploded. It's just everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
I literally I drove. Every time I go back to my parents, I take one of two routes. But now it's like I take one of the routes. A bunch of breweries have just popped up along the lines of it. It's ridiculous.
Oh, geez. All right, well, let's get the video started. This is SmudTalk number 7, Beer General. I'm here with Tanuki, and hopefully we're going to get LitDev popping in soon enough. And we're talking about one of our favorite things to drink in the world, which is beer. Beer is kind of like the thing that it's cheap enough to buy for a friend or a stranger. It's enough to walk into a bar just to see what they got. It's one of those things at the end of a long day, you just want to have a beer and just a whatever to sit back and relax and eat and drink. It just relaxes you. It keeps you happy. It calms me down. I don't know if someone's arguing with me and you have like a little swig of Guinness or whatever. Just like, yeah, okay, everything's all right.
The great equalizer.
It's a fantastic experience, and of course, there's all kinds of beers for all kinds of palates. And we're going to be watching Epicurious, which is a very cool food channel on YouTube. And there's a beer expert on there, and he's going to introduce some beers that we don't even know the names of. I don't know what they are, but we're familiar with the category. And the reason why I want to watch this is this guy's so good, and a lot of the experts on this show are so good that even though they'll say, I prefer this, but I know why this is more expensive, it's because they've pretty much trained their tongue and their palate to know what is good and what is bad.
Yeah, the actual process of going through to be an officially licensed taster, I can't remember the name of it right now, but I think there's only about 5 in the world for beer specifically, because it's not as global as wine, I believe. But yeah, it's a very difficult thing, especially with beer, because beer gets just insane with the flavor profile some people put in there.
Yeah, we're talking about whiskey last week. Whiskey is extremely complex, and I would say beer even more so, just because of the chemical processes and extra steps it is to make beer. The name for a beer sommelier is a cicerone. And
yes.
It's funny because when you study to become a normal sommelier, which is a wine sommelier at community college or whatever, they will give you courses or electives in beer and whiskey, just so you know that, yes, wine you can do. Wine everyone likes, fine, it's simple, it's easy. Here's another world, this mountain that you're not going to climb right now. But we'll just
you could walk into just any place that sells craft beer, and you pick up 2 beers off the shelf, and it's just like they can have completely different consistencies. And that's just starting with just whether it's an ale, or because I'm drinking a stout, I have it on my head, or a stout. And then you break it down from there. It's like, okay, did they roast the barley? What kind of hops did they use? What kind of yeast? What about this factor and this factor? And it breaks down so bad.
And then you could do the same techniques that you would use for whiskey, like certain kinds of barrel aging, or
or sherry aging. I actually saw one place They made a Mexican beer. Their Mexican beer was called Cerasis, which I thought was hilarious. But like, it was literally, that was what they called it. But yeah, they actually aged it in a tequila barrel.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's absolutely
you
wild.
can do incredible, crazy stuff with beer. You get super bitter, super salty, super sour, super fruity. There's all different kinds of combinations. And
like sour beer, I know, like, there are a lot of particular people. I like it personally, but I know countless people who just say, "How can you even drink that?"
Right, I know. But it's the same with bitterness. We're going to be looking at a India Pale Ale, which is one of the strongest IBUs I've ever seen. So, like, once you say that there's a Pale Ale or an India Pale Ale, it's like, oh, Pale Ales you could do. India Pale Ale, whoa, slow down. And there's more than just one style of India Pale Ale. And I know some brands that you guys might know from Europe as well as North America we'll talk about. So anyway, let's introduce Lamenters. Hey, how's it going, Lamenters? What's up?
Going okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Let me just crank you up a bit.
Awesome.
Cheers, brother.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to be watching on the Watch Together a 25-minute video. This is a topic near and dear to my heart because I think beer is the greatest, most accessible thing in the world. Unfortunately, in Canada, there's so many rules and restrictions, and I always envy my brothers to the south because they have less rules and less restrictions to make beer. So they have a wider culture of beer in general. Every state has their own rules, but man, it's always amazing to try new things. And that's the joy of beer.
Did Bear Zerker want to be on this one?
I don't know. He hasn't messaged me. If you guys want to
I know specifically he wanted to. And he actually has in chat, this is a stream I wanted to be on.
If he wants to come in, he has to message me.
He's at work. Oh,
yeah, it's
unfortunate.
Yeah, it's fine. Okay.
Yeah, we're really hardcore about our beer here in Colorado, so
good to hear.
I think once you start diving into beer, you just inevitably get hardcore about it.
Well, yeah.
We don't have to.
But I mean, we have like...
But you don't have to, but if you get into like the very like minute details of flavor profiles, it's just I find the more I talk about beer with people, the more excited they get.
Oh yeah.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. You guys ready to watch the video? Let's get going.
I'm Oliver, and I'm a beer expert. Boom. Zap.
Okay, so if you don't know the premise of this show, they have an expert. They guess between two things. Which one's more expensive? So, very basic.
Pilsner. Now, this is a great place to start because actually Pilsner or types of Pilsner are the most popular beers in the world. And
okay, the reason why they're the most popular is they're the weakest. They're one of the lightest out there. Very low alcohol, very low IBU or bitterness, hops, you name it. So that they're most accessible. So they're easy to drink. Anyone can get into beer. That's the way you do it. So, I mean, there's so many brands. There's so many names. There's all kinds of American beers or American lagers out there, which are like drinking water to some people. There's so many styles. You could say pale, not pale ales, but pale lagers are the same idea. So,
it's kind of like Coors, Rocky Mountain piss water.
Yeah, Pilsners, I would say, are a bit more hoppier. They're a bit bitterer, more bitter. So it's a subcategory of pale lagers, I would say.
Pilsner is difficult to brew because there's actually nowhere to hide. There's only 4 things that traditionally go into a Pilsner: barley malt, yeast, hops, water. You don't have all kinds of other things. You don't have roasted malts. You don't have a really huge hop character. You don't have barrel aging. You don't have many other things that can be done with beer. With Pilsner, you have those few ingredients, and they'd better be good. All right, let's see what we've got going on here.
Scrambled eggs of beer.
All right. Now, we're pouring from a can. You know, in the old days, that would have been a bad sign. Not so much these days. This actually looks really nice. You have a full antique gold color. You have a nice fluffy head going on here. This is what a Pilsner should look like. It should not have any brownish or reddish casts to it. It's beautifully clear. It has a nice kind of rocky foam to it. Different sizes of bubbles. You know, when you see all the same size of bubbles, that's usually a giveaway, as it is in bread, that you don't really have the real thing going on. So here in the aroma...
That's referring to the head, the bubbles in the head, not the bubbles in the beer. You want the higher carbonation to be very, very small in the beer, not the bubbles in the head.
Yeah.
A nice floral character. There is that little bit of typical silver. This is actually smelling pretty nice. All right, let's check out B. Now, we have a bottle here, but that does not necessarily mean that it's more expensive. We don't know. Now, right away, I see that color is a little bit different.
Top bottle.
Slightly browner.
Yeah.
The foam has a different look to it. Much more fine bubbles.
It just threw me
And
off.
the
They
aroma
used the
is,
bottle opener
for
on twist
Pilsner,
top.
a little bit odd. I'm getting a kind of a light banana kind of character going on here. Slightly papery. B is not an unpleasant...
I've seen banana porters. I've seen banana wit beers. And it's usually a gimmick, like, oh, banana or butterscotch or whatever. And those are fine if you like those kinds of beers, but it's usually a sign of they're not either doing something complete or they're trying to make a weird, goofy, seasonal thing that they're trying to experiment with, which is fine because that's what brewers do all the time. They might ruin a batch for that month. It takes maybe a month or two to ferment, and that's that. But it's not something that I seek out. I don't like the blueberry wit beers or the strawberry ones. Like, it's fine, but it's not really something worth for me pursuing. There's not much to it. Now, if this was an imperial pilsner, then it becomes a lot more amplified.
Ooh.
You have a lot more alcohol, so whatever flavor you've got, it'll just jump up at you. So, but that's where we get a little dangerous because even with a lager, that can be high alcohol and high hops. So,
And isn't an imperial a one that's been like refortified, or I can't remember off the top of my head.
imperial can be applied to just almost any style because you could do an India Pale Ale imperial or imperial stout. So there's all kinds of things. It's fortifying the beer with more alcohol essentially.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
smelling beer, but it doesn't really have true Pilsner characteristics. All right, let's taste A.
I love that sweater, by the way.
Zap. That has a real zing of bitterness to it, which is what we like to see in Pilsner. So if you have an all malt beer, you're going to have a roundness, you're going to have a sweetness, a little bit of biscuity, bready flavor in the background. And the thing that makes Pilsner refreshing is that zap of bitterness. It should be clean, it should be quick. You can taste also that this was not rushed. This is actually pretty decent Pilsner. This is pretty appetizing. Let's taste B. All right. This has a character of sweetness and fizziness, but really very, very little bitterness. As it goes down, it opens up onto some fruit, not unpleasantly, but definitely not traditionally. And really almost no depth at all. You start with fizz and maybe a little bit of banana, and then the beer kind of vanishes from your palate. I will say this for it. You know that this came from a place that has a laboratory and everything else because they're working hard actually to remove the flavor from it. The problem is, it doesn't taste. I'm Garrett Oliver, and I'm a beer expert.
Whoa!
We started over. What happened?
Oh no! Oh, I think
The real thing going on.
Laminer
So here,
joined back in.
Oh, okay. Let me bring it back.
It's all good.
refreshing is that zap of bitterness. It should be clean, it should be quick. You can taste also that this was not rushed. This is actually pretty decent Pilsner. This is pretty appetizing. Let's taste B. All right. This has a character of sweetness and fizziness, but really very, very little bitterness. As it goes down, it opens up onto some fruit, not unpleasantly, but definitely not traditionally. And really almost no depth at all.
Now, that's not uncommon for Pilsners. I'm trying to remember what's the one I used to drink? It was like an Urkel or something like that. It was a Polish thing, or could be from Czechoslovakia. I can't recall exactly. But it was green bottle. I do remember that. And it was a clean finish. So whether it's like robust or sharp, I don't think that's a character. Plus, it's very low alcohol. So you're gonna get a refreshing beer out of that, and that's why pale lagers or lagers in general are just like it's the most common beer, even in Canada. So
you start with fizz and maybe a little bit of banana, and then the beer kind of vanishes from your palate. I will say this for it: you know that this came from a place that has a laboratory and everything else, because they're working hard actually to remove the flavor from it. The problem is, it doesn't taste that good. Well, I'm going to say that A is the more expensive one, but let's see where we've ended up. I didn't expect to see a 0 at the beginning of one of these numbers. So, here you have one that's under $1 for 12 ounces.
That's actually the interesting thing, is that sometimes with how the flavor profile are of things, that it's just sometimes even your own taste buds are biased when you're trying not to be. That's why it's so hard to get so good at tasting these.
To find prices like that in Canada would be amazing. Like, I'm lucky to get, like, you'll find like in Canada prices. So imagine whatever the price is on the left, times that by 0.25 or 1.25. That's a Canadian exchange rate roughly. So I think the average price for a beer here is like $3 Canadian, $3.30, $3.40, around there. So if you find anything under $3, which this one is, that's a steal. So get a case, and lagers are easy drinking. So you're never going to say no to a lager, really.
So I'm just thinking about when I was grabbing my Irish Stout. I was walking into the local store, and they're one of the nicer ones. And I walked to the back where they have like some of the good ones. They had one of those like 99 can Pabst Blue Ribbon cases.
Oh no!
It was ridiculous. It would have taken like 3 guys to get that thing out of there. Anyways.
12 ounces. This is more than $1.50. But I'm going to tell you what, I mean, if you think about it, what can you buy for 60 cents? I mean, really almost nothing. This is actually not a bad price for a full-flavored Pilsner, whereas this may be cheaper. Is it really worth it to get something that's almost completely empty? Now we've got Belgian-style wheat beer, and so this is actually a type of a throwback in a way. These days, most people are making beer, traditional beer, out of barley malt, but in the old days, you made it out of whatever you had at hand. So traditionally, this style of beer would have been made from about half wheat and half barley malt. For the spicing, yes, they added hops, but they also added Curacao orange peel and coriander. All right, well, let's check.
Okay, something's wrong with our icons here. What's going on?
That's usually the icon when somebody's about to go on cam.
Oh, let me remove that. There we go. What? Oh, I lost him. You're up.
Oh no.
Let's try that again. All right. Anyway, not sure what was going on there. Anyway, we're talking about wit beer. So wit beer is essentially wheat beer. How do we characterize this? There's so many brands. I think in North America, the most famous one would be Blue Moon.
Yep.
Or Belgian White. So everyone knows that one.
Sorry, I'm having trouble getting this nonsense to work.
Okay, you're changing. There we go. You're good now. You're fine. There you go. All right. Anyway, We're talking about wit beers. Wit beers are the things that you add stuff to because it's so light. It's very similar in IBU and alcohol to the pale lagers. So Belgian Moon, Hoegaarden is a very popular one.
Blue Moon. Oh, I guess that would be Belgian Moon, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there's Shock Top.
Shock Top's not bad. They're the ones that do orange, right?
Yeah, it's the guy with the mohawk, the orange.
Yeah, the orange mohawk. That's right.
Yeah, there's in Quebec we have a company called Unibrew, and they have one called Blanche de Chambly.
I know Three Fills. They do a nice Belgian occasionally. I think it's seasonal, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, so I think most people are familiar and aware of this stuff. So, again, it's very accessible. It's very simple. I used to actually really like Hoegaarden for a long time until I grew up and tried other beers. And went, oh, wow, there's way more out there. So a lot of girls I see drink Hoegaarden when you go out for beers or just to bars. They're like, oh, it's interesting. It's light beer. It's not hard to drink.
I was a big Blue Moon drinker for a while.
Yeah.
Check out A here. No tells in our glass. We do have a pretty good look, though. It's a little bit dark for the style. Normally, this style of beer is going to be very, very pale. This has kind of a dark gold orange kind of color to it. The foam looks pretty good. A little bit of open bubbles and some finer bubbles. This level of haze is normal for this style of beer. Traditionally, this would have been re-fermented in the bottle and would be served with its yeast. A little bit pasta-like, not surprising, with wheat. A little bit of coriander, but the coriander here, it smells a little bit like hot dogs. Which actually is one of the flavorings in hot dogs is coriander. So if you use
depends on the It depends on the pasta. If he's talking about like an egg pasta or a semolina pasta, it depends on the wheat. I'm assuming it's wheat, obviously, so it's a semolina style pasta.
A little heavily, you get a little bit of a hot dog character. Well, let's see what B has going on here. There we go.
Yeah.
Now that is the traditional color. Much, much paler. This has a beautiful glow to it, full rocky head. And that's lovely. That smells great. Bright, fresh, floral. That smells pretty appetizing. Well, let's taste A. Wow. Very sweet, a little bit bland, not much in the way of bitterness. Very broad across the tongue, not really snappy, doesn't have a really fine type of carbonation to it. Kind of a little bit sweet, a little bit creamy.
Yeah, that's a bad sign of a bad beer. The carbonation should be as fine as possible, like Belgian champagne style is probably as good as it gets, but once you do that, you know that it hasn't been bottled long enough, it hasn't been treated long enough, and it could just be an inferior form of carbonation. So I'm not familiar with. There's so many ways of doing it. You could do it the natural way with heat. You could do it.
Or you do it like you just do a quick shot of what was it? CO2, I believe. There's a multitude of ways that you can actually get carbonated start, even natural methods and other ways, and rocking the keg.
Oh yeah, so there's all kinds of ways, and you can tell right away the quality of the bubbles. So I know it's a weird thing to say, like the texture of bubbles popping on your mouth, but yeah, you can tell.
At least it doesn't like hot dogs, but not really the bright,
complex,
fresh character that I would, hope to expect. And let's see what we've got going on here in B.
That looks like a Hoegaarden.
Still smells great. Boom. Bright spritz, very fine bubbles across the palate, bright orange peel character, a nice, clean, focused bitterness. If we didn't have more beers to taste, I would finish this glass. I would say that B is definitely the more expensive beer. The color of beer A is attractive. It started off with pretty good foam. It's almost like a cartoon of the idea of what Belgian wit beer is supposed to be, while this seems more like the real thing. Well, let's see how we did here. I'd be pretty surprised if it turned out otherwise, but...
Hey!
Yeah, again, almost twice the price. A Belgian white beer doesn't actually need to come from Belgium. There are a lot of nice American versions, but you need brightness, you need freshness. You should be seeing that pale sort of color to it, and it has to be really refreshing. The problem with A is that it wasn't even refreshing. It just kind of laid there, while B had a really beautiful pop to it. And that's worth that extra $1, believe me.
And there's more than one style of Belgian wheat beer, as well as German wheat beer. So it's not just, it's Belgian wheat beer. It is a wheat beer, but there's different ways of how, like the type of wheat they use, how long they ferment.
It's an entirely different it's an entire subcategory of its own.
Yeah, and I don't know enough to talk about it. I just know there's a wide variety that we don't get in North America.
Yeah, getting into like the subcategory discussion about certain things, hours of conversation.
It's a non-ending thing.
It's like talking about curry, just countless curries.
Curry, whiskey, it's all over the place. There's so many things.
All right, IPA. Many people who drink IPA might not even know that the name means India Pale Ale. This was originally a style of beer that, starting in the late 1700s, was being made in the UK, sent down around the south of Africa, up into the Indian Ocean, and into a port in Calcutta. And it was actually a provision that was sent there for British colonialists. So this style of beer was made in a particular way to be able to travel well, dry, sharp, bitter, highly aromatic. Hops give you flavors and aroma and bitterness, but also hops act as a preservative. So adding lots of hops was a particular way of getting IPA to actually last in a big wooden barrel for what could be a 6-month sea voyage.
It's the same argument with alcohol or sugar or any other preservative, really. So the reason why you drink IPA is you have a particular preference for strong, hoppy drinks. Not necessarily alcohol, because there could be I've seen, we have Canadian IPAs, which are like 3%, 4%, but the IBU, or the international bitterness units, are like 40, 50, they're way up there. So you have to know what you're getting into when you're buying an IPA.
Yeah, I got a cousin who, he refuses to drink anything below 80.
What? Holy jeez.
Wow.
Don't ask me why. I will not be able to explain it to you. That's just how he is.
That is malt liquor at that point. That's
pretty much.
Wow.
I tried to talk to him about it. I guess that's just what I like. It's like, all right.
Wow. If you have like hot, like I don't know, say you're eating like, I don't know, something with like 20,000 Scoville, and you want to clean your mouth out, you don't have any soap, just take a swig of anything over 70. Even 60 IBU is more than enough to dissolve whatever's in your mouth. So,
yeah, you get rust off a bumper with that.
Oh God, yeah.
All right, let's see what we've got here with A. It would have been some years back that you would never have seen an IPA in a can, but these days it's actually kind of a common thing. Now, one thing I can tell right away is that if this is an IPA, this is a very modern take on IPA. IPAs were traditionally clear, but these days, especially in the last couple of years, you see a lot of them that have this very, very hazy appearance. And that has an enormous hop aroma. It's just leaping out of the glass. Hops are varietal like wine grapes. There are dozens of varieties. It's one of the more expensive things that you use in beer if you're using a lot, and this definitely has a lot. Nicely done, very bright, very fresh. And now let's check out B. All right, a pretty dark color here. A little bit darker than we generally see in IPAs these days, but that's not a bad thing. So this aroma is really different. It's a bit more biscuity, more sort of malt focused. It does have a hop aroma. It has a beautiful rocky head to it, a fairly nice appearance.
A lot of blood orange IPAs look that color.
Wasn't supposed to drink yet. But definitely 100% malt beer. The thing is, though, it doesn't really have that massive hop aroma. For me, that's a little bit of a tell because the hops are so expensive. If you have a lot of hops in the beer, you have a massive hop aroma, it's one of the things that's going to cause a beer to be more expensive. All right, let's see what A tastes like. lots and lots of hop flavor. The bitterness is soft but balanced, and it's long. It kind of keeps going and going and going. It's not tremendously sharp, but the hop flavor is really sitting there on your tongue, almost like you had, I don't know, citrus powder and mango and things like that going on. But it tastes pretty good throughout. Now here in B, you have something that almost tastes like a little bit of a throwback to the older original British style.
So in case you don't know, the British style of IPA is not as intense in terms of bitterness. So I guess you could say around, I don't know, even I'm not even familiar because I don't even know what they serve there, but it would be like 30, probably 20 IBU, whereas the American's a bit higher. And then you have the Imperial, which is at least 60. So it's, how much hops do you want? How strong do you want your beer and how bitter do you want it to be?
How much do you want to take a sip and get kicked in the face?
Yeah, no, it's almost hard. Like when you see the Russian Imperial Stouts or the other stronger, thicker, richer beers, like it doesn't matter what you eat. It doesn't matter what else you had that day. It will encompass your entire mouth. There's no other flavor.
That is your evening.
Yeah, that's it. That'll last you maybe a good few hours if you can actually drink the stuff because it's so thick.
Good old cowboy coffee.
Oh.
Yep.
Clean, sharp, well brewed, but a little bit of metallic tang. You often see that with some breweries that are using extracts and things like that. You have a little bit of a sort of almost chemical edge. But from a technical point of view, not a badly made beer at all. Both of these are perfectly decent beers. I'd be happy to drink either one of them. But when it comes to what's more expensive, first I like A better and its massive use of hops. It tastes like it costs 2 or 3 times as much just to make it in the first place. So I'm definitely going with A here. Yeah, that's a pretty big difference. Both these beers are definitely worth drinking. If I'm having some really spicy food, especially something with citrus going on in it, I'd probably go for A and that big citrus pop. But the biscuity character of B really rose in perfectly fine with a burger, pizza, something like that. In an IPA, there's a few things you're looking for. Generally speaking, dry, highly aromatic, lots of hops, somewhere between 5.5% and 7% alcohol by volume. Most of all, IPAs have to be fun to drink. I mean, one reason why IPAs are so popular is, frankly, they're fun on your tongue. They're explosive. And A is pretty explosive. Dark lager.
Whoa, yeah.
Look at Pilsner. This is our second lager style. Pilsner eventually took over the world. What people had before then was dark lagers. Well, let's see what's going on here with A. Kind of a foldy, amber-looking color. Look at that foam. That is beautiful. That foam is really indicative of a really nicely brewed beer. It's rocky. It has texture to it. It stands up. It's so fine over here, sort of creamy looking.
Yeah, I mildly hate this because I want to try all of them.
Yeah, this is. I think the thing behind the was it the Munich lager? I think this is a dark lager, whatever you call them. They're mostly about malt. It's not about the hops specifically. The IBU is pretty much like a lager, so it's not as bitter. So there's almost no hop flavor at all. And you're going to get a lot of bread, a lot of rye, a lot of nutty things, a lot of nutty flavors depending on what else they put in there. So
yeah, you need something that's like a very distinct, strong flavor to get through it.
Yeah, the one I'm trying to think of, but it's not a dark one. It's like Warsteiner. Like it's refreshing, but it's not super bittery. But it's got this refreshing, sparkly flavor to it. But it's bread. Like you would have it with bread. That's what I remember eating when I would have a Warsteiner at a German beer hall.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And that's just the one style. I'm sure there's other styles. Like I don't even know what Munich is. Munich dark lager. I'm like, what?
Well, I believe Munich's a location.
Well, yeah, I'm assuming the location. That's what they name it out. But there's probably like American dark lager. There's probably like some.
Yeah,
Belgian.
I think even Germany, they have a beer. I can't remember for the life of me what the name is because I'm terrible with remembering words. But it's branded as the darkest beer in Germany.
Really?
So, like, yeah, that's like a very big brand qualification for a lot of people.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I don't. The color is just one element. It doesn't tell you if it's going to be rich or smoky or whatever. It's just one element, and they can do many things just to give a certain color, which has nothing to do with taste, which is amazing because why would they trick you? But they do.
Yeah, well, I mean, they do the same thing with whiskey too.
Yes.
It's a little harder with whiskey.
Because a lot of whiskeys, they'll add like the caramel coloring.
Yeah, if they're bad.
Yeah, usually.
Yeah.
Usually it's based off the char of the barrel.
Well, I mean, even good ones, even decent ones, like the Lagavulin 16, they do that with it. So
I would have to see what barrels the Lagavulin does, but Lagavulin is a very peaty sort of Scotch.
Yeah.
So I would imagine they want to make it more acceptable, because if you talk about like Ardbeg and Lagavulin and Laphroaig, like those are peaty Scotches, and you gotta sell that to some. Not everyone can drink Ardbeg. I'm telling you right now, I could barely touch it. So Lagavulin's I can at least go near. Yeah.
Schwarzbriar, yeah, I think that is it in chat, Taco.
What's that?
Also, welcome, Bear.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
Oh, I'm fantastic. I got a dry Irish stout. I'm talking to some wonderful people and learn a bit more about beer.
Last night was my drinking night. I had a couple of them. One a dark porter called Coco Jones, made with coconut.
Whoa.
And it's not actually as sweet as I thought it would be, which really helped it. Really good, nice coconut flavor, but not the overwhelming Leinenkugel-esque sweetness. Highly recommended if you ever get out into the Vancouver, Washington area.
Okay.
That sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Porters are a very specific kind of flavor, but yeah, there's light porters and heavy.
Smud, you were
sorry.
Oh, Smud, you were talking about how easy it is to make beer over here. Good God, I bought a brew making kit at a grocery store a couple years ago.
Oh, you can do it.
$20.
You can buy a machine. Yeah. It's legally able to sell it and manufacture it. That's where it gets like holy hoops.
Yeah.
I mean, I brew my own mead, but yeah, it's still a process.
Like you're not allowed
listen,
to sell it.
Listen, sometimes the government doesn't need to know what you're doing. Okay,
this is true. But if you want to make a living,
I know that's a water still.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm distilling water.
Triple distilled for all my science experiments. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a science teacher.
So how do I join the watch together?
There's a link in the description, or sorry, in the chat. So you should jump in there. All right, let's get going.
Boy, that smells good.
A
little bit smoky, toffee-like.
Hey, how you doing?
Layered.
What is this guy drinking?
Hey, what's up, LiteratureDevil?
Lager. What is that?
That is not a lager. No way. There's no way that's a lager.
That's a dark beer.
Look at that kind of IPA look to it.
It could
Last
be.
one was IPA.
Yeah,
this one's
it's
Munich
a Munich
dark lager.
Yes, a Munich dark lager. You got it. Not for everyone.
So it was a lager then.
Yeah. Lager's in the name.
Lager's in there. Yeah.
Layers and layers of depth. Often these types of beers, dark lagers, are thought of as almost the beer equivalent of a freshly baked loaf of dark bread. And that's kind of what this smells like. Beautiful caramelization. That's kind of awesome. Let's see what we've got going on here. He's got tough competition, guy.
Is your beer anime?
Deep color? I mean, not a...
No, there's not.
There should be. There should be.
Oh, actually, there is an anime called Bartender. It's all about cocktails and different alcohols, and it gives a little bit of information about it while the guy's doing it. It's very interesting.
We wanted to send us around beer though. That'd be good.
If we could have food wars but wine tasting.
Yes.
I want that so bad.
Right up my alley.
Absolutely beer wars.
Well,
watch that in a heartbeat.
There is a manga I really like called The Sleepy Barmaid, And
I do like that one.
it's fantastic because there's this girl who's just really good at bartending, but she's so clueless about like life,
Everything else.
so she makes these amazing drinks that you're like, oh yeah, this is what I would get.
Oh, I picked this flower and it makes the gin taste really good. It's like, oh,
Yeah, like she goes out of her way to do like stupid things for her customers. It's not over the top dumb, but because she's so clueless and she's so focused, it's like she makes this amazing cocktail.
it's very sincere.
Exactly.
Why is he pouring the beer like this?
I have no
I
idea.
do not know.
It's kind of brutalizing the beer by pouring it this way.
Is it always on the side of the glass?
Well,
Yes.
apparently it's natural to in Belgium to when they serve you beer to just keep the frothiness of the head as high as it goes and have it spill over the glass. And they have this knife which just cuts the head and then they just serve it like that.
I'm familiar with that. I do not like that.
It's
No,
a
I'm
waste,
not doing
yeah.
that either.
Yeah, anytime I've been to like a beer festival or anything, it's always the side.
They don't want to waste the product, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
People
Bad
put
color.
work into it. Don't waste it.
The foam is not nearly so well formed. There's a lot more kind of big open bubbles. It doesn't have that kind of rocky tightness that you have going on in A, and does not have the full sort of deep mahogany sort of color. It's attractive,
Mahogany.
much more simplistic.
That's the best part, is opening up a new beer
What
and
I'm
then smelling it.
Basically,
Oh, yeah.
is
Taking the aroma.
mostly pale malt, a golden malt, a Pilsner malt, mixed with some very dark other malts, and giving a light caramel character. Now here we have the flavor and aroma, I should say, of Munich malt. Munich malt is a more difficult and expensive type of malt to make. It is kind of lightly caramelized, but when you make the entire mash out of Munich malt, that flavor is concentrated. So whereas in B, you have the caramel character as more of a flavoring added on top, here it's used throughout. Let's check out A. I can't wait to drink it, actually. Boom. Everything in place. Very soft bitterness. This is really a style of beer that's all about malt. Very slightly sweet, very creamy, beautiful texture. It sort of makes me look forward to the holidays or something. I feel like I should have a big roasted piece of meat in front
That's
of
what
me.
you drink
or
while you're at a log cabin.
Yeah, it makes you want to go get a turkey or something. It's Christmas coming up.
Go out hunting, be manly.
Or kill one. Yeah, that's
boy.
true. Oh yeah, you could do that in America with a hunting license, I think, or just in general.
Yeah.
Hunting
Again,
license.
Smud.
Be right back.
Again-
I go chop
again,
some wood.
Again, Smud. Sometimes the government doesn't need to know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Throwing that out there.
We just
It's full circle.
we just have silencers on our rifles, even though no one else knows that. That's okay. No one
Yeah,
can hear
but,
you.
Well, they're silencers because nobody knows.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like in the video games, right? It just goes pew pew, and no one hears you, right?
Click, click, click.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just.
Oh, that drives me nuts.
I know, I know.
That drives me insane.
I'm like,
like I was
yeah,
ex-
like
It's like I was explaining to somebody at work. It's like, I'm at a shooting range. I have my ear protection on. Dude next to me has a suppressor on his gun. I can still hear it, even with everything going around in my hearing protection.
That's
it's the different, like, silencers are like, it's meant to make it so that you can fire the gun and not go deaf afterwards. That's the
That's
Yeah.
illegal.
It's
silence it at all.
displacement.
Those are the
It's
legal
displacement
silencers. Yeah, they sound like a jackhammer still, but it's just.
It's just like a very calm and very kind jackhammer who's trying to be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although I will admit the scene in was it John Wick 2 where they're basically just shooting at each other in just a public place and nobody notices. That was a fun scene.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Back to beer.
Yeah, anyway. Yeah, back to beer.
Something like that. Now, B, kind of light, acidic, caramel character, very one-dimensional.
What is he doing?
Not
Is he-
in any
he's just
way,
tasting it, or is he trying to figure out what is
unpleasant.
what?
It's clean.
Well, yeah, he's a beer expert, so he knows what goes into making a Munich lager, dark lager. So
Yeah.
he's figured. The great thing about this show, or at least they get experts, is they'll say they have preferences, but they'll know what's good and what's bad. So they're highly analytical, and they know all these flavors and all these combinations.
So you're saying they're objective?
I'm saying they're very critical.
Beer is subjective, okay? Sometimes if you just take some cat piss and some hops, that's beer.
That's beer, yeah. Toilet beer.
It's a social construct.
Literal piss
Here's a
water.
social construct.
I mean, not wrong, but
If it's a social construct, then beer is probably one of the best social constructs we ever made.
yeah.
It's like hats off to you, society.
If
Thank you for
patriarchy had like a
that.
symbol, like you know how the United States has an eagle, bald eagle, I think the patriarchy should have a beer bottle as its symbol.
Thank God
a
for Charlie
beer bottle
Mops.
with a giant veiny.
Well, I
dick
mean,
in the
it is.
bottle.
You made
it
it a
is
wonderful
phall-
drink and you
it
made
is
it
like
out of
a
hops.
phallus shape, so you know.
Exactly.
Not as sweet
Not to be
as
an emperor, a sultan, or a king. Up to his praises, we shall always sing.
And look what he's done for us. He's filled us up with cheer.
God
live
bless
Charlie
Charlie
Mops.
Mops, the man who invented beer.
Oh, that is a wonderful song.
And it's made out of hops.
Hmm.
but that's not technically fault. It just overall isn't as fun to drink. I'm gonna
See that wonderfully subjective? It's not so much fun after he's given objective observations as to why.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Or so
I
basi-
can't figure this out. It's all my opinion. I have no idea.
I'm thinking B, just by his description. I don't know why.
I'm swinging
Then-
A.
That and the shape of the bottle is making me look like some expensive. Cause they do that weird bottle shit up here in the Pacific Northwest all the time.
Which is more
for the most
expensive?
You
shit.
know, there are drinks and scotches and what have you that it doesn't taste as good or as good to you, but they're like, twice as expensive or 3 times as expensive
Oh yeah.
for whatever reason.
Scotch ale.
Lots of wines are
You know,
like that.
here in the States, it's kind of like who made it, as opposed to what's in it.
Oh.
Sometimes,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's true.
you go with like something like Dogfish Head. You can pay like $20 for 4 bottles of beer.
It's okay-ish.
No, I had Dogfish Head. It's all right. It's not worth the $20 for 4 bottles.
Nah, I have, however, there's a bunch of local places here that's just like, it's grand. I feel spoiled every time I buy from them.
The locals are always great to go to. There's micro
Oh
beers.
yeah, especially the ones that are made out of a garage. They're fantastic.
I've forgotten so many beers, but they've been they're always awesome. Yeah, I had like a weekend where we not like a week. We just brewery hopped, and I'm pretty sure it was not out of the realm of realism. They had like nearly 1,000 beers.
Oh,
Different
like
beers.
in Ohio, I was telling Smud earlier that there's like over 300 breweries in Ohio
Yeah.
alone. So it's like instead of like a beer brewery hopping, it's just you have to take a beer vacation because they're
Much.
Now, if you guys want to go on a really good beer vacation, come to where I am. In Vancouver, Washington, there is a setup where you and a group of people can get on a bike, a giant fucking bike, and you're drinking on the bike as you're going to bars to drink some more.
there's a grocery store before the world caught fire. You could buy a beer and then just walk around the store and just enjoy your beer while you're walking and getting your groceries.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah,
As God intended.
Beer is the only way I can make it through Rise of Skywalker. Maybe that's why I like it a little better than Last Jedi. I was in a movie theater that served you beer. Like I need to have one of these to get through this movie.
what was it? I had to watch Ghostbusters 2016 twice because I had
Whoa.
too many beers.
Way too
What?
many beers.
No. That should have been an indication. If you drank yourself into forgetting the movie the first time, you shouldn't have watched it the second.
Yeah, but bad decisions were made, and I felt I needed to watch it just for the sake of it. Anyways, we were talking about beer, weren't we?
Those times when your own principles bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
say here that A is the more expensive. That is like really traditional Bavarian style dark lager, and I find that B is a little bit wanting, but let's see what we've got.
Oh!
About twice as
Nice,
expensive. And where that expense is really going to come in is the malt. Real Munich malt, traditionally made, that's going to deliver that depth of flavor that you're looking for. You're really looking for that big, bready, coffee-like character. And if you don't smell that going on, if you can't taste that going on the palate, you haven't really got the real thing. It's easy to get the color. You can always add all kinds of caramelized sugars. You can add caramelized malt, but that...
Yeah, so that's one of the things I was talking about before is that don't be scared of a beer because of its color. Be scared of a beer based on its type. If it says anything imperial on it, be very careful.
Be cautious.
Yeah.
I mean,
If it says imperial, go balls to the wall. Chug that shit. Have some fun.
I have drank like an 18% beer just for the sake of saying it, and I was miserable the whole time, but I've done it.
Have you ever had a craft malt liquor?
Oh,
it's very interesting.
Oh yeah,
From,
there's tons
Sam
of like
Adams,
really nice.
No.
It was interesting. It was very. It'll get you drunk pretty quickly, but it was very interesting.
Oh yeah, there's so much fun to be had with beer.
Right.
Yeah, in Colorado we used to have this thing called the Strong Ale Fest. That it was basically just beers, and it had to be at least 8% to get in.
Okay.
And you'd have things like getting up to 16, 18. It was crazy.
I'm assuming those were mostly American strong ales.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are intense. Those are really powerful.
I think my limit now that I've decided is about 12. Like 12% is my hard limit when I'm drinking beers, because
at that point it's wine.
It's just one, and I'm good for the evening.
So one New Holland Dragon's Milk, and that's it for you.
Oh, Dragon's Milk is so fucking good.
Oh, that's great.
See, when I think of strong ales, I think of the Tripels from Belgium. Like that's where my flavor, like the quadruples as well. Those are a bit different, but I prefer the Tripels. Those are my personal favorite. And it's just
those are some good ones.
It's the intensity of the alcohol and the intensity of what they put in there with the malts. That like I always talk about Delirium Tremens just because it's like the generic, does a little bit of everything. You could buy it almost anywhere, and it's classic. So it's always there to have with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who likes beer? You wouldn't just give this to anyone, obviously. So.
Flavor that you have going on in A, that's the thing that's going to cost money. You have a lot of interest these days in hops, but when it comes to dark lagers, Munich malt is kind of where it's at. Now, when brewers mention barrel-aged beers, a lot of people will say to us, "Oh, you've gotten some wonderful ideas from the wine people." Well, actually, we've been putting beer in barrels for about 2,000 years now. The stainless steel keg only showed up in the 50s or 60s, but until then, it was wood. Wood is porous, so you always have a little bit of oxygen filtering in through the wood. That is one of the things that ages wines. It also ages beers, and often in a pleasant way. Remember, all the barrels are being filled and emptied by hand, so that's a lot of work for somebody. Anytime you see a real barrel-aged beer, it's almost always going to have some expense to it. But there are tricks, and they are sometimes used. You can take a barrel and chip it up into pieces. If you put those barrel chips in a tank, you can get some of those flavors, but not all of them. So let's see what we've got going on here. Let's open up A.
The size of that bottle.
You can also get some very interesting smoking chips from that.
Nice foam.
Ooh,
that foam is coming up to a very sort of creamy look here, and then more of a rocky surface. Normally when you see a beer that has this kind of color, that's going to largely be from roasted malts. There is a really beautifully fruity, lightly peaty sort of character. I kind of suspect a Scotch barrel.
Wow.
Yeah, you see with like Scotch ales like or like
real wood.
Coffee
it's very
or
soft
something.
in its aromatics.
Ooh, yeah.
When people are doing really fast barrel aging or they're using chips,
here they actually have
usually a really straightforward
Kentucky
vanilla
bourbon barrel
coconut
ale.
Sort of character going on. Where here you've got some real depth. That's smelling awfully nice. Oh, now let's open B.
Yeah.
Much paler color.
Oh, what is that?
Though that doesn't mean anything.
It's kind of like
barrel age, even very pale beers, and they can pick up lots of wonderful characteristics. Well, it smells like there's definitely some wood going on there. A little bit of vanilla.
He's just
a
kind
little
of
bit
like,
coconut,
well,
Wood?
you
the
know.
malt's
Wood?
going on underneath.
Wood in a
It
barreled
really kind
ale?
of just smells a little bit
No.
like wood.
No.
That is nice foam, though. A nice, more or less rocky foam. It's not bad looking. It has a nice color to it, kind of a honey-like color. I mean, overall, smells pretty pleasant, but not certainly not distinguished by a good amount of time in a barrel. Let's taste A. That's pretty, wow.
Went for a double
I can
sip.
barely talk now. This tastes not only like dark chocolate, which is more or less the underlying beer, it's got that beautiful softness that really speaks to barrel aging.
And the more expensive.
So
I would
this is
say the
soft,
A would be more
round.
expensive. Maybe.
It's got a beautiful
possibly.
fruitiness going on.
Well,
I
I've
can
not heard
definitely
the
tell that this
flavor
was
profile
not
of beer
done
yet,
with
so
Yeah,
I'm
you
holding
could
my judgment.
you could barrel age almost any style of beer. So I don't know.
Oh yeah.
What to make of this? 'Cause this could be anything. So you got one pale, you got one dark. It could be a stout, could be a porter.
Could be a blondie.
Yeah, we have no idea. I couldn't tell you. He's just blown away. Oh my god, it's amazing.
Oh, this tastes great. Wonderful.
Well, we're doing a show. Crap. Ah.
chips or powders or anything else. This spent a decent
And again, would they
amount
really
of,
make A the answer
barrel
again?
aging
I don't
time.
know.
All
But
sorts of characters.
my
going
guess
on.
is still just
There's always going to
on
be
A
some
still.
vanilla.
Maybe.
Always going to be a little bit of coconut.
That's what I do on
pretty
multiple
gorgeous.
choice.
Let's taste B.
No, C on multiple choice. Come on, man.
B is a perfectly decent beer, but frankly, a little bit disappointing. What I'm getting mostly here is kind of a sweetness. That honey color is appropriate because it has a honeyed sort of flavor, a little bit of vanilla going on, and it's pleasantly juicy. So it's actually a pretty well put together beer. But if you're looking for something with like real barrel character, I'm not really getting that here. This beer tastes a lot like this without the barrel. I'm going to go with A as the more expensive beer, simply because it has a great deal of depth to it. You have so much going on
Yeah,
that
exactly.
clearly came from a decent amount of time in the barrel, where B is tasting more straightforward. It was either a very short barrel aging time or possibly some of those other methods that I mentioned. So
We'll see what the
let's
answer is,
goes
I
on
guess.
here.
Ooh,
Wow.
Jesus!
Wow.
Holy-
Okay.
No,
that's
it's
a
more expensive.
pretty
It's
big
like-
difference,
it's
an
like
even
multiple
bigger difference
magnitudes more
than I
expensive.
expected.
So 5
To tell the
times as
truth,
expensive.
Look,
B didn't
you've
do
got a
all
fucking
that badly,
diamond-lined
considering
barrel?
that
What the
this is
fuck?
like 4.5 times the price. But the thing is, I'm not that surprised in a certain way. If I had to guess, I would say that A had been in the barrel for over a year, and if B saw an actual barrel at all, I would basically put it at a month or two. This would actually be very nice with a pork chop. I would say that basically it's worth the money, but it's not worth what that is worth. This is a specialty beer that would be a bit more of a special occasion, a much more
I've
interesting
bought those
experience.
occasional bombers.
Yeah, I don't think the average beer goer would ever buy that for that price.
That's more like a for beer connoisseurs.
You have to know what you
even
want.
I wouldn't be against just doing that to try it,
I'd
but
definitely buy a bottle, definitely.
even then, it's pushing my limits because it doesn't bother me price most of the time. It's
For
just
12 ounces.
for 12
Yeah,
ounces that hurts.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and hopefully you could buy that in a single, because if you have to buy, like, if it's $10 per bottle and you buy it in a case, like, no, way too expensive.
Like, I understand because they went through all the processes of barrel aging it or using wood chips or whatever technique to burn the wood. It's like, okay, fine. It takes a lot of effort. You probably fermented it for over 2 months or 3 months, maybe.
Yeah, I've shared like a $30 bomber here and there as like a gift for Christmas or whatever, but
Not a regular drinker.
Yeah, like when I would do for specials was be like buy a limited run of like Sam Adams that does a 2 month, or sometimes I've seen a few year-old Sam Adams selects that were amazing. So that I would say I know the brand because Sam Adams does every kind of beer I can think of. They just do so many flavors. So if you're looking for,
Sam Adams is like my go-to.
it
Just
is
for like casual drinking.
if you don't know what's on the menu and you're scared or you just want something safe, Sam Adams is going to give you a fantastic evening, regardless of what they got. But yeah, but it's if you go to a specialty store, not a specialty store, but like a beer bistro or some sort of boutique.
Or like a tap bar or something like that.
And you could buy in a box the Sam Adams. Like that would be a nice gift to get for someone who actually enjoys that kind of beer.
Fruit sours.
Ooh.
Now, you may say to yourself,
yes, sir.
why would I want to
Yeah, this is not for everyone as well. So
Oh, I hate that I'm like the only person who enjoys it, so I have to always bring my own 6-pack if I want to enjoy it. I'm like, a nice hot day, I'm smoking something, and you want something to go against like what I'm smoking. I usually just pick up a sour occasionally for that. But yeah, it's definitely not for everyone else.
yeah, there's a beer I remember from that. We have a brewery called Bellwoods, which is a fairly well-known brewery in Toronto, called Jelly King. And it's a dry hopped sour pineapple, tangerine, and I think grapefruit flavor. And it is like a punch of, not a fruit punch, but a punch of fruit. And it just goes pow. And you're like, what? And it's only like, 5 or 6% alcohol, very straightforward beer. But man, it is like, these are the guys who change up their menu every year. And they've kept this on for years and years because everyone loves it. So
yeah.
For comparison, I believe Sam Adams, like a regular Sam Adams Boston Lager, is around 5%.
Yeah,
I believe
for sure. Yeah, standard.
4 or 5 is
Was
about the
that-
average.
Did that beer have like a Leinenkugel kind of sweetness to it, or?
I don't know if they have a sugar rating on it. I don't think they measure. I think it's something like I don't even know if they have the IBU, but it's from Bellwoods Brewery. You can check it out. I'm sure it has a crazy label. It's like a psychedelic stupid thing.
Is that Bellwood?
Bellwoods Brewery. Yeah.
Bellwoods Brewery.
Jelly King. I can't remember. I don't know. Again, this year has been kind of weird for all the brew houses and breweries in Ontario, but I'm sure it's still advertised because
That is indeed a funky label.
Yeah, they have like this one called Ninjutsu or Jutsu. They have all these bizarre names, but what a great place.
There's actually a place here called Twin Evil. They actually had a beer that was basically they printed Samurai Jack on the outside of it and called it Bushido.
That's pretty clever.
Oh yeah, they do some really good beers and it's really expensive because they're all very, very good. But yeah, they do really interesting labels. It's like one of them I think it just said beer and then just on the top of it just had Twin Evil Brewing Company on it. They didn't have anything else on it. It was great.
want a beer that's sour? Well, in the world of drinks, generally speaking, you either have citrus juice as the basis for a cocktail, or you have bitters. The same used to be true of beer, and in the old days, when it was done properly, this was considered very pleasant, and in barrel, people would often add fruit. But in the last 100 years or so, we kind of sheared away the whole acidic side of
Literally
beer.
had a sour
so
that
just
tasted like
even in looking
a
at
sour
these,
apple.
you have
It was
two different
amazing.
packaging styles. The more elaborate here, B, is the traditional style. Now, you might look at that and say that's a champagne cork, but actually, champagne is in a beer bottle. And the technique that's generally used for the secondary fermentation to do these kinds of beers, where you add sugar,
awesome.
extra yeast, and allow the second fermentation to happen inside the bottle, that actually was beer first, and then later champagne. But the champagne guys have better PR. All right, let's see what we've got going on here. Maybe our color is going to tell us something, and it kind of does.
Ooh, there we go.
Looks more like
If he doesn't
raspberry
open that
than
bottle with a
anything
saber, I'm going
else.
to be very
You gotta love the
disappointed.
pink foam. It's a beautiful color. It's got a little bit of haze to
Did
it.
someone slip him a soda when he wasn't looking?
Aromatically, somewhere between raspberry, cherry.
No, it's common for sours to have
straightforward.
very
Nice
obtuse
foam.
colors.
It looks good.
That's definitely
nice
a sour.
color, nice berry
I'm
characteristics.
definitely an EO5.
All right, in B,
Sours
we
are
have a
good.
much more
I kinda like sours,
elaborate
but they're not
style
my
of
favorite.
packaging here. If you want to talk about expense, you got to start here.
Thoroughly disappointed.
What do we have going on?
Ooh, that's interesting.
That actually looks
Woo!
okay.
That
That's
looks like something
changing
that
my mind.
Dracula might drink. It's got some
Thick
brownish
as
color
blood.
to it, but
That
even
looks
that tells
powerful.
us something. It looks like it's actually taken on some age. usually start to get some browning of the fruit.
It's like the first one looks like a punch at a
there's
kid's party,
all
while
kinds
that
of
one
stuff
looks
going on in there.
that's the punch at the adults
So
table.
we have a little bit of.
I might go with B on this one for
a
being more
slight, vinegar,
expensive.
Character on top.
They
little
put a
bit of
lot more
acetic acid,
effort into it,
almost
obviously,
always an
especially with you
indication
have that
of
bottling
wood, a
process.
distinctive,
No, definitely.
also fruit.
As opposed to a
character.
can.
You also have definitely some wild yeast going on in here.
I don't know, it might
Wild
be more
yeast
expensive,
give
but I'm
you a
go- my,
whole other
I'm
range
going with
of
B on
funky
this one so
flavors,
far.
reminiscent of forest
Nothing
floor,
there's anything
but not in
wrong
a
with
bad
a
way.
can.
In a way that like you might feel the same way about
Look
some
at that
grape
color on
juices.
that thing.
So let's
Yeah.
taste A.
If I were to guess, it would be B so far.
A great color there. A little brusque, a little broad. I kind of expected something a little zingier. It kind of lays a little bit heavy. There's some residual sugar there. Almost tastes to me like it was added back because it doesn't have a big underlying malt character, which you would kind of expect if it was what we call residual sugar, meaning sugar left behind.
Yeah, this is like a beer you'd have like a flight of just to try
Yeah.
all the differences. You wouldn't have an entire can. That'd be like a little too much.
Oh,
all at
I
once.
gotta go back to that bourbon bar because they have like weekly flights that they do by the employee staff. They're so good. Sorry, I'm reminiscing about when the world wasn't on fire.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remind myself like there's like Krug, like the German Krug style beers. There's the cuvées that do something similar to this. It's either cherry or a raspberry. It's very, very reminiscent of the flavor of a wit beer, but just amped up because of the alcohol content. And we're talking about beer, so there's not as many hops, so it's not as bitter because you want the sourness of the sugar to come out.
Right.
So
We had a Blue Moon.
we went.
Oh,
through,
yeah.
Basic Blue Moon beer.
that's
Yeah.
that's
It's one made with wheat. It's made with
Yeah, that's a wheat.
Yeah. It's a wheat
But,
beer. The first time I tasted the Blue Moon, it was this tastes like Cheerios. It tasted like very distinct taste of Cheerios. That's how I remember it so well.
yeah. We
Yeah,
talked
Blue Moon
about
has a really good mango wheat.
Yeah, we
Oh,
talked
so-
about wit beers. Blue Moon is one example. There was Hoegaarden, Blanche de Chambly we have up in Canada. There's Sam Adams, of course. Shock Top. Shock Top was the one I was trying to remember.
Oh yeah. Shock Top. I remember that one. Is it the one with like the orange mascot?
Yeah, with the mohawk.
one
Yeah.
the orange mohawk.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't remember that beer very well, but I do remember the mascot.
I remember.
They did a good job on that one.
Yeah, every time
It's
you
decent.
order that beer, the same way every time you order, what is that Mexican beer? Corona, I think. They always
Yeah.
That's
You always serve Corona with a lime. You always serve a shock top with an orange.
Exactly.
I don't know why people like Corona so much. Corona to me is disgusting. So,
Yeah,
You're
I'm
right.
with you on that
You're
one.
right.
Yeah.
I probably drink a Bud Light before drinking Corona.
Oh boy, that
I
is
can't get. I can't.
that's
I
cool.
don't know about that.
Now, I can't get too mad at Corona because my entry point for liquor and beer was Mad Dog 2020.
Ooh. Brother,
Yeah,
that's rough.
blame my dad for that. He had shit taste of beer.
That pains me.
Yeah, believe me, it pained me too for a very long time, especially in the head and liver.
Oh, that's
Blue Moon with an orange always. Yeah, Blue Moon's great with
Yeah,
an
Blue
orange.
Moon was great with orange. It actually does with like a little slice of orange.
I think they put
They're fantastic together.
they put is it lemon or is
Gotta
that
make-
only in Hoegaarden they put lemon? I can't remember.
I think that's only Hoegaarden.
Blue Moon is orange.
Yeah, Blue Moon's always been orange.
All right.
No, I
Gotta
will.
make
I will
sure-
say, putting a slice of orange in with the mango wheat one. That's pretty cash money.
You got to make sure you put it in the bottom, then pour the beer over top. That's a trick.
Oh,
I will do that next time.
Not this on the side of the glass shit.
Of course, I'm partial to Blue Moon because it's like 40 minutes from my house, so you know.
oh, the actual distillery or the
You
The brewery,
locationist.
yeah.
the brewery? Yeah.
Yeah, I got a Sam Adams near me.
Oh, jeez.
So, B here is going to do any better for us. Wow. That's really fun. It has a cherry-like characteristic to it. Very sour, but well integrated. It's not always an easy thing to match the acidity of the fruit itself together with the acidity of the underlying beer. But here it's been done really nicely. Definitely some barrels here as well. A beer that was aged in a barrel is almost never going to look like A. It's going to look more like B here. So these guys are two really different types of fruit sours. I would definitely go for B as the more expensive beer. It almost certainly has a barrel going on. It tastes stronger as well, which means more malt, which means more expense. So
If A is more expensive, I'd be surprised.
Whoa. That is the
Hot
biggest
damn.
difference that we've
it's kind
seen
of
so
obvious.
far. If you're
I
starting,
mean, the other one just looks like it's made way better. I don't know.
I was expecting it to be the more expensive ones. I wasn't expecting it to be $12.
$12.
definitely go for
12
B
ounces.
as the more
I think it's
expensive
the best job
beer.
ever.
It almost certainly has a barrel going on. It tastes stronger.
A beer
as
sommelier,
well,
yeah.
which means more malt. Which
God,
means
if only
more
I could get
expense.
paid to drink beer
let's
all
see what
day.
we've got here.
Well, the great
That
thing
is a huge gap between prices.
That is heaven and earth.
That's
Amazing.
that's the most expensive beer of the night, isn't it?
Yeah.
pretty much. The thing is, it's very specific. Like that style of beer, not everyone will enjoy. So you really have to know what you're buying. Like you wouldn't just buy a case of 4 or 6 of those bottles. You have to actually know what it is. So if you trust the brand name, like if it was Sam Adams doing that, I'd be like, you know what, I'll trust the brand because they do everything very well.
It's pretty good. They're pretty reliable.
I only do local sours because I don't trust big name sours.
Oh really? Like you wouldn't buy a Sam Adams?
No, I'm weird with sours because it's like very particular. So
Yep.
I really have to if somebody's doing a sour in a local one or like a small brewery, they put care into it at the very least.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I've only had a sour from local breweries. I don't think I've ever had like a mass-produced sour before.
Exactly. It's always a craft beer. It's always seasonal. It's like, oh, we just made this last month. It's like, okay, it's on tap. We'll try it.
It's like, oh, shade from Mad Tree. It's like, oh, it's wintertime. I better go over there and have a sit down and enjoy one.
By the way, we were brewery hopping, and I said I had like around 1,000 beers or so. It wasn't like 12-ounce cans. It was, as one boy said, flights. I tasted them.
Right.
These little small samples. It's going like this huge bender, drinking all these.
Of course you weren't. Wink, wink.
Yeah, wink, wink.
So, what's a flight but like 4 8-ounce cans? It's like it's all good.
It was good though. It was delicious.
God, beer's so good.
It's awesome. Beer's awesome. I don't see why people get so hoity-toity about wine when you have beer.
Dude, beer is so like complex and fascinating. And it's just like,
Yeah,
oh, wine. Oh, it's dry. Oh, it's too sweet. That's like, we literally put a muffin into a beer.
So yeah, you can keep your fancy grape juice. We'll be over here with our pints, enjoying ourselves like real men.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you drink milk. When you grow up, you drink beer.
Oh yeah, that was a quote from Arnold. That's right.
I keep thinking of Beer Fest. So it's like, yeah, what was it? Your Unbecks? Unbecks?
Unbecks? Yeah, Unbecks. I tried Becks. It's I
It's
guess
not
it's a
good.
beer. I guess you could technically call it a beer, I suppose. By the way, if for anyone who's like a beer amateur out there, he's like just remotely like maybe interested in the beer culture. If you see a bottle that's green, don't get it. Don't get green bottles. Okay, and don't get clear bottles either. Okay, get it if they're brown bottles or nothing. Get cans or brown bottles. Don't get clear bottles. Don't get green bottles. Those are disgusting.
What? Tell them why, LiteratureDevil.
Well, isn't there something to do with the aging and how it's not kept very well, and it's a lot cheaper. Like it's like it's very very tacky.
If I remember correctly, like sun exposure will change the beer's flavor.
Yes,
That's why you need
yeah.
to
That's why the
That's
brown
why,
bottle
like-
helps protect it a lot better than a clear bottle, and especially a green bottle.
Yeah, that's why some people do their packaging for their 6-packs where the actual packaging's higher up on the bottle to help protect from the sun more.
That's a good
like
thing to
they're-
remember because there's a lot of people who love Heineken, and it's always been a green bottle.
Well, Smud, there are a lot of people that love The Last Jedi too. There are a lot of people that have bad opinions
Very
about
true.
movies.
Very
Like,
true.
There's a lot of people who have opinions, and some of those people are wrong.
Well, you know what? If you're thirsty and it's hot outside, and you go to a bar and they don't have anything great, and they have a Heineken, I'm gonna drink a Heineken. I mean, I'm thirsty. I'm gonna have one. So.
I mean, that's fair.
I mean, you can find another bar.
Yeah.
Go to another bar.
This is true, but I'm
It's
not
like
saying...
I go to this bar and I don't know what's on the menu, even though I went there. It's like, fair.
You know what? If it's not the worst, there's much worse beer than Heineken out there. So.
Oh yes.
So
I've tried
definitely
a
so.
lot of them.
Coors.
The entire brand name of Molson, yeah, I think Coors is.
Yeah, Coors Light.
Old English 800.
Ugh.
Well, I know in Colorado, like people who live here, or who are from here, they refer to the Coors plant, and then we have our breweries.
Ah, yes, I see.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So
we were talking.
we don't consider it a.
It's like I said earlier. It's Rocky Mountain piss water.
Yeah,
It's
well,
fine.
when they started coming out with iced tea,
No argument.
and the acronym is CLIT, we're like, okay, this is a joke, right? Are you trying to like appeal to people? I don't know who you're appealing to, but it's not the guys. Anyway, we got 1 minute? Yeah, I think this guy just cleans up and says what he likes and why.
Yeah.
Whoa. That is the biggest difference that we've seen
It's a
so
huge
far.
difference.
If you're starting with something relatively
Heaven and
simplistic,
earth.
that's relatively easy to get, not difficult, not seasonal, etc. It's going to be cheaper. But this barrel, all that handling, greater strength, etc., each one of these elements is going to add more and more expense to this beer. But as a result, here you have something that'd be perfectly pleasant with a cheesecake or something like that. But here, you could get the best goat cheese that you could possibly imagine. Aged goat.
See, that's another great thing about beer. It goes with almost everything compared to like wine.
Yeah.
You could
I
have.
was mentioning to some people earlier where it's just like you can pair a beer with a meat and cheese board very easily when you find like specific beers and like the subtypes and like all these different flavor nuances. There's so much you can do with a beer and all like different things you can pair with it.
like a
Based
stout.
upon, like
Take
what they brew it with. It's amazing.
Take a Guinness. You could
wheat
have
beers,
that.
wheat beers with pasta dishes, stouts with
for sure.
steak.
But I just had a Guinness the other day, and I was like, I could drink this. I was taking my time. I had this with every meal throughout the entire experience, like dessert, the salad, the main, the start, like everything. It's just Guinness. It's totally fine. It worked perfectly. So you can get away with that. Works great with seafood. Works great with the mammal meat, flesh. With all
What was
sorts
it? There's actually a brewery near me. There's a bakery across from them, and as a collaboration with the bakery, they did cupcake pairings to their beers.
Ooh.
That's awesome.
There's a local bakery here in the Portland, Vancouver area. Every year they do Guinness, like dark chocolate muffins with Guinness mixing them.
Oh man.
Oof.
You could put Guinness in a stew. Like that would be an ingredient.
Oh, dude, like a beef stew with Guinness? Oh, fuck, hell yeah. You use that to deglaze the pan?
Well,
Just-
I've seen people put multiple bottles of Guinness. I don't think you should do that, but I've seen people do that at bars for their stew base, which is crazy, but it works. So there's so many things. It's much more diverse. It's much more robust. There's less alcohol than scotches or wines. So it's always a good, cheap attempt for trying something new. And all you got to do is go up to your bartender and say, what do you got on tap that's local? And now, obviously, you can't do that nowadays, but when you can.
I'm so sad because there was a local place near me. It's a great restaurant. And I still love going there. They had 42 taps at their bar.
Wow.
And so you could just basically perfectly pair anything you're eating with anything they had on tap. And it was incredible. And it pains me that I can't still do that. They still have it's all local beer now because they just have it they drive from like the place back over. But at the same time, it's heartbreaking that they had to throw away so much beer because of the lockdown, and like that hurts a lot because that's a lot of wasted beer.
I mean, a lot of wasted beer.
Guys, what we need to do is we need to get together and conduct ourselves a peaceful protest here at the bars.
A peaceful protest, exactly. And no, we gotta go claim a couple of bars as our own, and then make a bunch of autonomous zones with bars in the middle.
Oh shit! Listen. In Portland,
Beer Republic. Let's be honest.
Portland already has a Chaz. We can just like knock that shit down, like, or we can annex it and add it to like the main street down here where there's all the bars. Let's do a hostile takeover. Let's fucking do it.
The Beer Republic.
Let's be honest. The Beer Republic will have more traction than Chaz, just due to the fact that like everybody just wants to grill.
Yeah, we just want to grill. Take over some grills too. Why not?
Yeah.
Oh fuck yeah, dude! Oh man, I'll get a blacktop. Fuck yeah. Get a nice blacktop. Get a bunch of propane cookers. We'll caramelize some fucking onions. We'll do some.
Hold on. Time out. Charcoal.
You can do charcoal. but you can't do a charcoal blacktop.
What's the point? What's the point in propane? Hank Hill's wrong. Charcoal's the best.
Well, charcoal's pretty good, but I understand the symbiosis between the two.
We have a section of downtown Toronto called Liberty Village, and the reason why it was called Liberty Village is that was the manufacturing place of all the bullets and ammunition for, I think, World War II for Canadians. And in that spot, I used to work there for a few years in tech. They have a place called The Craft, which is about 100. At the time, it was about 140 taps, and I think they have 160 now. But it was intense. Like they would have everything that Ontario imported from outside of from Canada, and they would always get it first. So it was just one of those things to do after work. You just walk down 2 blocks. And it's like, give me whatever's new. And they would have a little scorecard, like those little black books they hand you. And they expect you to like drink every beer on tap. It's like, if you drink every beer, we'll give you a free this or that. It's like, well, what if I've drunken 20? Is that enough? It's like, oh, that's good. So they're always having this game with who can come in and sign your book to say who drank the latest beer on tap number whatever. So, man, I miss that. Just the novelty of that, to have, like, you see all these pipes running through the building into the back room. You're like, what are all these? Like, oh, those are the beer taps. Really? You guys just stuck them into the ceiling? Oh, okay. So, pretty funny to see.
What was it? There's always like some interesting thing at each brewery. I remember one of the breweries I went to. They still actually have it. It's chuck a buck. You chuck a buck and you throw it onto a like mesh thing they have up in the air, and all that money goes to charity.
Oh, that's nice.
Nice.
It's just this like metal grate they have that's just hanging up like 10 feet up in the air.
Yeah.
Everybody's got that nice thing.
Yeah, one of them here's an old like firehouse, so they have like still have like the metal pole where they slid down and all that good stuff.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Actually, there's a brewery here, Brewdog. I've probably talked about this before, but they're actually from Scotland. And normal patrons can come in and actually go and put money in on their business, and you can get like actual stocks of their company through them. and I believe in Columbus they also have a hotel where the bedrooms have taps in them.
That's silly. That's pretty
sounds like
silly.
my kind of place.
Yeah, it's very. I know some very
depending on what they
interesting
have with-
locations.
Anyway, if you guys are ever allowed to travel again and you want to go to somewhere new, I think the States is one of the better, more accessible areas, but of course Europe would be amazing as well. Just go for a tour.
Yeah.
Go for a beer
Well,
tour.
that's something I talk about to a lot of people, is people don't realize like what is in America. Like they don't even know what's in their own country. So
Yeah.
when you can actually travel around and see locations, I'm not talking like fucking New Orleans and shit like that. It's like when you actually drive across it, there's so many fascinating locations to go to within the country you're in. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars for a trip across seas. You have so much culture within your own country. Go out and find it. Hunt for it, people. It's amazing.
You'll find it through beer.
Oh, you could have an amazing vacation just driving across the international highway, taking stops along to stop at breweries. I guarantee it. Or take the Great River Highway from the north to the south and start up in, I think it's in Minnesota, and you just stop along locations and go to different breweries off that like main stretch of highway, and finally end up in New Orleans. Like, there's so many trips you can plan. It's amazing. America's more than just hamburgers and hot dogs. There's so much more to offer.
But those are good too.
Even though actually, you can actually have an entire vacation based around going to different stops in the United States based around hamburgers. Look up George Motz, M-O-T-Z. He's a burger scholar. He's an amazing man.
A burger scholar.
Oh yeah, he's
My
like
dream
one of the,
job right there.
oh he's a foremost expert on the history behind like the way certain burgers were created. And
Here's a new plan, okay? Become a burger scholar and a beer sommelier.
Oh, now you're talking. But yeah, there's just so much in America that people just easily undermine because they don't look into it. And America's a very culturally rich place, and I love this country deeply, and I feel that each individual state needs to have its own. It needs to be looked at more. Yeah, every state should have its like spotlight.
Well, one simple
Because
thing.
each one. Sorry, I don't mean to just rant and ramble. It's just I'm very passionate about like I love not just America, but just like all the nuances of each area. Like there's so much to love in each individual state that you can find in the people that live there. It's not just like an amorphous blob. Yeah, it's not exactly.
One thing I remember from you're talking about hamburgers. You can do this at home. I don't know if you're able to go out these days, of course, but if you have any ground beef or whatever quality, usually it's you want a good burger, use AAA, but it's up to you what you want to spend money on. Get a small amount of meat for a patty and just squash it really flat. These are called
smash burgers.
Smash burgers.
Yeah.
If you've
Just take the spatula and a dowel rod and just push it across it, and then because it's so thin, the fat just like crisps up.
There
very
you go.
Fine.
That's the simplest thing I can think of.
That's actually a specific style smash burgers, and then they have like the Juicy Lucy. They have like all kinds of other ones. There's other ones that are steamed. They have like some burgers that are deep fried. They're very like specific stylings of burgers. Yeah, I spend a lot of time studying food in general.
But it's anyone
I could
can
prattle
do it.
on for hours. I don't want to hold this stream up.
No. I just wanted to, because we were talking about hamburgers, and there's such simple things you can do that's not expensive, and everyone has to eat. We all have to go to the grocery store, and you can't go out as much. So try that out. Make your own hamburgers. Ground your own beef. Not ground your own beef. Buy ground beef, whatever. Salt it any way you like. Any seasoning. And just put it as thin as you can get it on the pan and see how it tastes. And I bet you it'll change your world. And you'll save money on how much you eat because you're eating less beef because there's less on the bun. But that means you could eat more if you want. You're not hungry enough.
You can also forego the bun and do a loco moco, which is a Hawaiian-style hamburger dish that doesn't use a bun.
Oh, really? I don't know. I want my bun and my pickle. That's kind of my thing. So
you need to have you have to have the heel and the crown. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta have that. So anyway, that was our wonderful little beer chat. That was great. I love talking about this stuff, and I think this channel they did cheese with this cheese expert. That was hilarious. I loved it. They had all these knives to cut the cheese. Like she could figure out which was good just by looking at it and smelling it and all this wonderful stuff. There was a wine person. They had bacon. They had all kinds of great people on Epicurious. So if you guys want to check that out, if you love food, check out Epicurious. They also have a very good magazine too. So anyway.
Yeah, I'd never heard of this before. I'll have to check that out.
It's amazing. I really like the artwork behind that guy. They actually paid an artist to draw all those fonts and colors and everything. So they put a lot of effort into their videos. And these guys are amazing. Like, these videos, I've never seen. I think there was one person who got it wrong once, and the price was like a few bucks here and there, so it wasn't a big deal. But I think it might have been the whiskey one. I can't recall, but I really like the whiskey one too. It was this Scottish girl, and she was just like,
Oh,
I'm so happy.
Ooh.
She was amazing.
well, let's see, Epicurious on YouTube.
So it's confirmed. Smud Boy likes Scottish girls with the big but thick buns.
Who doesn't?
I do have a personal story about that, but that's for another day.
In a different stream.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway,
This is for
Ooh,
pirate stream.
after our Smud Boy
after
stream.
I don't know about that. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. This has been fun. We're probably gonna do another one next week. I don't know what we're gonna cover. If you guys have any ideas for food or drink that you'd want to cover, you have some personal passion about, could be liqueurs, it could be wines, it could be a certain kind of dish.
Actually, this was it. Unless you want to talk about books and stuff.
Oh yeah, books and beer. There you go.
I'm
That's
happy.
like part of the course for us.
Yeah,
I'm happy to do another beer stream.
That's
if there's
true.
a video that you find that's fascinating,
yes, but
Absolutely.
there's all kinds. So we can do another beer stream. That's totally cool. Okay.
or another whiskey stream, or a wine stream. I'm down for all of it.
Oh,
Actually, I'm a lot less knowledgeable in whiskey than I am in beer, but I do like whiskey. I do like drinking it. That's as far as I go.
I know a fair amount because I live in bourbon country.
No, very nice.
I was gonna say I'm much more knowledgeable on whiskey actually than beer, but so
all right. Well,
Nonetheless,
I'll be happy to have you guys on soon enough, talking about whatever we like. This is just for fun. We're not doing anything serious. We're just having a good chat.
Yeah.
So
I know that's why I hope to come back for a topic that's very enjoyable to converse about.
all right, guys. Well, thanks for spending your time with me. We'll talk to you guys real soon. Not sure what I'm doing after this. We'd have a game night. Not sure yet, but we'll talk to everyone real soon. Probably tomorrow. Okay. Good night.
Bye bye.